Alright guys, today's video is going to be a comparison from an owner's perspective of the 2021 Moto Guzzi V7 850 Stone and the 2016 Kawasaki Vulcan 650S. Approaching 3,000 miles on the Moto Guzzi. I don't know what I'm at. I'm assuming over 6,000 something miles on the Vulcan 650. I haven't looked. So I've had both bikes for a little bit, so I can give, you know, a little bit of an opinion of what I think about both of them. 650cc approximately, 850cc approximately on the Moto Guzzi. I think 62 horsepower what the Vulcan's rated at, 65 what the Moto Guzzi is rated at. V-twin, parallel twin. V-twin, you got a more grunty feel with the Moto Guzzi. With the Vulcan, the motor's more smooth and linear. It's not exactly linear on the Moto Guzzi. It kind of seems linear, dips, and then kind of picks back up. It only revs to about 7 grand, and that's it. You ain't going nothing beyond that on the V7. The Vulcan, like, it revs to over 9. It is, you know, it's a sport bike engine. Retro standard in the Moto Guzzi, the V7. The Vulcan, you know, you got your cruiser style bike, but it's a sportier cruiser and has a little more lean angle. Pegs are up a little higher. You got a little more room to turn. Longer wheelbase with the Vulcan, so it feels a little stable as far as cruising and highway speeds go. The Moto Guzzi, it feels stable, not quite as stable as the Vulcan cruising wise. However, because of that, the Moto Guzzi to me feels a little more nimble.
A little bit of stuff to each one.
Yeah, both bikes performance-wise stock, no performance modifications. The only thing I've done is drill a few holes in the muffler on the Vulcan to help give it a little more audible sound. And it does help, actually. Not performance-wise, but sound-wise. Gives you just a little more. Moto Guzzi, no performance mods. Everything is, you know, cosmetic mods. Tail-tidy, levers on both of them. Mirrors on both of them. Grips on both of them. Got a visor on both of them. Blacked a few things out with some vinyl wrap on the Vulcan. Yeah, new lights, signals, all that stuff. Speaking of, you can go ahead and flip that key on.
Okay.
Flip it on. Let's see you do it. Oh, see? There's your startup on the Vulcan.
And now here's what I look like sitting on it.
Yep.
28-inch inseam. That's up really nice and smooth.
Vulcan's, it's got a smoother motor. There you go.
Sound good?
Sounds pretty good, actually.
I know, and you can feel, yeah, and you can feel that rumble. Okay, ready? I know, and you
It's more grunty on startup.
Yeah, and you can feel that rumble. Okay, ready?
Yep. Very nice.
Good.
It's got the Moto Guzzi has a more meatier, like I said, a more, that V-twin just really, there's just a character about it that I really like compared to the Vulcan. The Vulcan sounds good. This bike's just more characterful, especially the motor. Yeah, on the Moto Guzzi V7, obviously shaft drive. I love that. Not having to do that chain crap maintenance all the time, which unfortunately you gotta have to do on the Vulcan. So, yeah, you know, if you choose to anyways. Otherwise, whatever. Let's take them for a ride. Take them for a spin.
Okie dokie. Why does yours overpower mine?
Because it's better. I prefer the styling of the Guzzi or the V7. Looks wise.
The Guzzi and the V7 are the same thing.
Or I mean, Between, okay, just scream out in crazy laughter, why don't you? Which one do you prefer the styling of, the V7 or the Vulcan?
Choice, because I think they both look awesome. That's why we got them. I mean, not only for the looks, but you know.
Okay, if you was judging based on looks, if this Moto Guzzi, the new one, the V7, this one was at the same dealership and we had been looking at it, well, along with the Vulcan, would you have gotten the V7 or the Vulcan based on looks? Based on looks. Oh yes, that's what I'm saying. I like the Guzzi style better. I think the Vulcan's a good looking bike. I think it looks, especially the way we got it looking after taking the mirrors, the stock mirrors off, it looks a lot lower and sleeker to the ground, which is pretty nice. Kawasaki does a really good job with their graphics on their bikes. I'll give them credit for that. They know what they're doing there, and also they make a reliable bike, so I'll give them credit there. I've not had any problems with the Vulcan. Not really. Nothing of Kawasaki's fault, that's for sure. Few big sticks here in the road and some grass and junk. Motor, you can really ride this bike in the low revs, man, like around 3,000 RPM and 4, even below that a little if you're just cruising, you know. But this bike doesn't act upset. The motor is I mean, yeah, it has the V-twin vibe, but it's smooth. It doesn't buck and act like it's upset. It does just fine. On the Vulcan, which I will say the Vulcan has smoothed out over time. When we first bought it, that bike would buck and carry on below 3,500, 4,000 RPM. It was kind of a little bit aggravating, which I was a new rider back then. That was a little bit aggravating to me. Cardinal. What are your thoughts?
I think, which I didn't actually ride until you had already rode it for a while. And so now I kind of just feel like they both feel about the same to me as far as like, yeah, I hadn't really, but like I said, I didn't ride it from the get-go. You was the one to ride the Vulcan first.
The Vulcan, yeah, over time, especially with 6,000 miles on it, has smoothed it. Like I said, the low rev stuff has smoothed out a lot, and that jerky buckiness of it, that motor's a lot smoother now than when we first got it. That being said, when I'm riding that bike, for me, 6'1", which that's a mid-range seat too, so I find that seat hurts my butt after about 40 minutes. That's about as long as I can keep riding, but my butt's numb.
Me being a shorter, smaller rider, I actually have no issue with it. I don't have any issue on the Guzzi either, so. Throttle response, this, like it does seem like it picks up a little bit more than the Guzzi.
Kicks in faster. Yeah, but I also think too the gearing on that bike, first and second gear between this bike are pretty close, between the V7 and the Vulcan, but once you get past that, the gears are a lot closer on the Vulcan. Oh. The clutch on that one is stiffer. This one feels really easy, and the shifter is a further throw on the Vulcan, but a quicker throw on the Guzzi. So I like the easier clutch, but I wish the shifter was like the Guzzi. I agree.
I like the easier clutch, but I wish the shifter was like the Guzzi.
Yeah, the shifter on the Guzzi is shorter throw, but it's not a short throw, but it has a significant clunk or click on the end of each shift, which some people don't like that. I do like it because it lets me know that I am solidly in gear.
On this is mostly digital. The tack is analog. I feel like it's easy to see right now. I mean, it's still pretty light out, but we are going through some darker areas with the shaded trees, and it kind of lights up a little bit blue. It doesn't have a gear indicator, but we added one. But I mean, that's not a must. It does have a gas gauge, which is nice.
Yeah, fuel gauge is actually pretty accurate on that bike. To me it is. Moto Guzzi dash, I like it. I like it. It actually gives me an 80s vibe a little bit. For some reason it reminds me of this, well, I guess you can see why. The 4th generation Corvette emblem. It reminds me of that shape, and I love that car, or that generation Corvette. But I like how they put the turn signals in here. That's so cool. Very neat. They light up good, and I can see everything really good during the day, and I can see everything really good at night on it. It's got a gear indicator, a little bit delayed, not that big of a deal. No fuel gauge, like you said. But that being said, you know, 250 plus miles out of this bike on every tank of fuel. That being said, you can get a lot more range out of the Moto Guzzi than the Vulcan. The Vulcan has a 3.7 gallon fuel tank, and the Moto Guzzi 5.5 gallon tank, dude. It doesn't even look that big, I don't think, but it's 5.5 gallons, man. You can fit some fuel in here. You can take a trip, dude. This bike's meant to get out and be rode and to chomp up some miles. These bikes weigh about the same. Fully fueled, the Moto Guzzi is about 490. It actually weighs over 490 pounds fully fueled, and the Vulcan weighs 498 fully fueled. So the Vulcan might be a few pounds heavier, but not that much. And I thought that bike would get better fuel mileage, but it could be in the gearing because that one's geared a lot closer. I'm gonna ride the Vulcan on this rough road. Tell you my opinions.
And I get to ride that on this rough road.
Also, the Vulcan is much easier to get into neutral than the V7.
Yeah.
Gotta search a little bit for that. I find it easier to get into neutral on the V7 when if you do it while you're rolling, well, to a stop. The Vulcan, real quick, this is pretty cool. It has a positive neutral finder, I think that's what it's called. So if you're at a stop, if you pull up, you cannot go into second gear. It will only go into neutral, which is pretty neat. This thing is aftermarket on ours. 2017 and above, it comes standard, a gear indicator. That being said, if you get a 2016 or below Vulcan S, this thing is really easy to install. Vulcan, this is what will probably scare a new person with the Vulcan. I think it's a good beginner bike, but when you get on the throttle and let off, man, this bike has it has kind of a jumpy throttle a little bit. It's not like scary fast. It's the throttle, the on-off throttle transition is a little jumpy, or can be.
This seat position, the pegs are kind of under you, which makes me kind of lean forward a little bit, so I feel like a lot of weight's on my wrists. Kind of sitting more on the front of your pelvis, whereas the Vulcan, you're sitting kind of more on your back, where it's a laid back and your feet are in front of you. And
clutch is much easier to manipulate. I mean, not much say easy to manipulate, but much lighter on the Vulcan. I think the clutch is stiffer since we put that aftermarket lever on the V7, but it's, you know, even with the stock one, it was still heavier than this one. That being said, I didn't think it was very, very heavy. It's a little heavy now, but I thought the stock, oh gosh, this road's horrible.
it wants to kind of track a little bit, like.
Yeah, the Vulcan don't do that too much. It stays pretty on the path you got it going. Yeah, I think the V7, it will track in certain things, but it's not. It's really, to me, I think it's easily controllable. And actually, this Vulcan does, I mean, it turns in really good and easy, you know. It's not, you know, like I said, this bike's nimble. This ain't like a big, I don't know, it ain't a tank. It don't handle like no tank of a bike. It turns in good, it turns in quick. I mean, we bought this bike brand new for $6 grand. Bought the V7 brand new for like $9,100. That being said, we got the Vulcan a little bit under MSRP at the time, so it was a carryover. We got it in 2018, I think, and it was a 2016 model. It just hadn't been sold yet, so we got a little bit of a discount on it.
For the price, the Vulcan is a very good bike for what we paid.
At 6'1", even with the mid pegs, in the mid seat. I don't know how comfortable it would be if I rode it for several hours, but I do find like this, the only problem I have is it causes my butt to go numb. So the V7 don't do that to me, not so much. I mean, maybe after 2.5, 3 hours my butt might be feeling it, but by that time most people are gonna have taken a break anyways.
Now the Guzzi, it feels very premium. Feels good.
I think the V7 feels like a lot more solid motorcycle when you get on, even though it's about the same weight, maybe just a few pounds lighter. I don't think it feels heavy, but it feels solid. I don't know how to explain it. The only way to understand that is to get on one. You know what I'm saying?
Before, this feels like it's metal, and like the cheaper bikes like feel more plasticky, where they...
This is the worst road. The Vulcan has some plastics and junky little cover parts, you know. I'm not a big fan of that. I think they could have implemented some of that stuff better, I will say that. But that being said, this is a good looking bike even with all that stuff, you know, and it's a very reliable, you know, solid bike. So yeah, the Moto Guzzi just as reliable as this bike. I mean, I've not had no real issues with neither of them. But also it might be why, oh man, yeah, this is a rough road. That being said, the Vulcan does a good job, the suspension, but it is a cruiser style bike. It's got that single shock. The Guzzi's got the dual rear shocks, but they changed the angle of the shocks for 2021, and I've rode the 2020 version as well, and the 2021 one is a better ride than the 2020 V7, which I thought the 2020 one rode good though. Yeah, but you got, man, yeah, you got a lot of engine braking on the Vulcan compared to the V7. The V7 you'll have to brake some.
I like the engine braking, except when I am going through town and I have to stop at a lot of lights, because then I feel like I need to intentionally hit the brakes just so the people behind me know that I'm slowing down.
153.2, I don't know if that's right or not. I'd have to go back, I'll have to put in a tank of gas and add it up, but I figured it in the past and it was the high 40s. The MPG calculator on the Moto Guzzi is crap. I think the one on here is actually kind of close on the Vulcan. And I'd say the safety systems on the V7 do work good, and the ABS works really good. Both of these bikes, and I'm talking about a competent beginner, not a dummy, not an idiot. In the hands of a competent beginner, the Vulcan and the Moto Guzzi V7 are both good beginner bikes, and I will absolutely stick to that. I've heard people say, oh, you got to start under 500. I don't care if you're incompetent beginner. If you start out on a 500cc, a 250, a 125, I don't care. You're gonna get hurt. Okay, so that's my rant for this video. But anyways, both good beginner bikes, both, in my opinion, good value bikes. I actually think the Vulcan is a better value than the V7. This is for somebody just looking to get a good bike that's beginner friendly, very attainable for a good price, even brand new. I think brand new they're running between 7,000 and 8,000 right now, the Vulcans. The Moto Guzzi brand new 9,100. You might be able to get carryover Vulcans for cheaper, like I did. No big, you know, so you can get deals on them, and Moto Guzzi will run good deals on their bikes too once it's been out for a little longer. But yeah, I think the Moto Guzzi V7 is a more longer lasting, when I don't mean reliability wise, I mean as far as like if you collect bikes or want to have a bike that you're more probably have a better chance of keeping, the V7 is going to be a bike that you're going to hang on to more than likely. But that being said, I mean, we've hung on to the Vulcan because so far I still like this bike. I'm not, you know, I'm not looking to get rid of it. Do that. So Vulcan, it is quick, but it doesn't feel quick. It's kind of such, it builds power so linear and smooth that it's kind of just, I think it tricks you into almost thinking it's slow. I don't know if that makes, like, it builds speed pretty good. It's not the fastest bike, but it ain't dog slow, dude, this thing. But in 6th gear, it's running a good RPM and staying in its torque and power band. And because of that, we're getting ready to turn up here, by the way. Because of that, it does fine on the highway. This bike has plenty of passing power, even in 6th gear and stuff.
Kickstand is harder. It's getting...
Yeah, I'll say kickstand on the V7 is harder to get down. Kickstand on the Vulcan, very normal and easy.
Yeah, this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, alright.
It's decent. I like them both.
I don't know, they're pretty close. The V7 may be as fast as the Vulcan. The V7 feels... I don't know, the V7 may be quicker. I think Vulcan's a better value, but I think the V7's a better bike. That's my final conclusive thoughts. And it's gonna depend on your personality. If you're not into the retro V-twin stuff, you know, then you might like the Vulcan better. I do like the Vulcan. I do like kind of feeling low to the ground. I feel more planted. It's a more as far as that goes. But that being said, the V7 is a nimble feeling bike. I feel like this throttle is more direct than the Vulcan's. There is no on-off. It is a much smoother application, and it's nice. I like it. The Vulcan, don't get me wrong, the Vulcan, once you get used, you know, like, even I've rode the Vulcan a bunch of times, but even after riding the V7 and hopping back on the Vulcan, it kind of took me a few minutes to kind of get reacclimated to the way that bike rides, the throttle and the clutch and stuff, you know. As soon as I hopped back on the V7, I could take off immediately on this and it felt natural. Like what I was expecting, or I don't know.
See, I feel the opposite. Like, I feel like when I hopped on this felt more natural to me.
I don't really notice much difference between them, to be honest, between this and that smaller liquid cooled Vulcan. I don't think the Vulcan runs hot at all. I mean, obviously on any hot day, and today's a hot day, it's not in the 90s now, but we've rode these bikes for 3 hours today, you know, over 3 hours and altogether, and I've not had any issues with the heat. The V7 suspension is a little better than the Vulcan's. It actually soaks up the bumps a little better. But that being said, it's a totally different style of bike. You got more, I don't know the numbers, but it feels like you obviously should have more suspension travel. But the Vulcan is not a rough riding bike compared to a lot of other cruisers, though, even though it's sporty. In conclusion, which bike would you get if it was your money?
Because, like, for me, I would probably say the Vulcan, just for me. And it would be cheaper because I'm tight.
Settled. The V7 is a better bike if you're a man. If you're a girl, get the Vulcan. That's it. That's my final thoughts. Anyways, well, that's what I said. A man's bike. The V7 is a man's bike. The Vulcan is a girl's bike. I'm joking. You think I'm being serious? I rode the Vulcan for quite some time. The Vulcan is a good bike. Man, woman, no child. Okay, that's all I got. I'm hungry. I'm getting off here. I'm gonna go get something to eat. Biker Believer, like, subscribe. Yeah, what are your thoughts? Which bike do you like better, the V7 or the Vulcan 650? Yeah, and I mean, I'm talking the V7 850, the new one, the 2021 one. Special stone, same platform, just different styling, same bike. So which one would, if money was no not an objective choice between them. Which would you rather get, the V7 or the Vulcan S? That's it. Like, sub, share, hit that little bell thing, and till next time, peace.